Do a quick video of the most recent update to my collection, and this guy may have appeared in another video I did, but I don't think I've actually done a video just on him. But I got my first Chewie, and this is a Pine Island male. And I don't typically keep my animals in these tubs, but it is winter time, and we have had some really cold weather, and so I usually pull the animals inside and just temporarily, in the colder parts of the winter, keep them in some small containers until the temperature gets a little bit more mild, and I can put them back where they are normally housed. But this is a male Pine Island, and he's pretty much full grown. He's about 50 grams. I know some of these guys can get larger than that. And as I typically do when I'm getting into breeding a new species, his cage is really messy right now. I hate to say it like this, but I kind of start out by buying like a mutt. I try not to spend a whole lot of money and get something that's really, really nice. And the reason is because I like to kind of experiment. I'll usually buy one or two individuals, and what I'll do is I will become accustomed to their care and their husbandry, and I will have one or two successful breeding seasons, and then once I've done that, then I will branch out a little bit and invest in some higher quality animals. And so this is just kind of your run-of-the-mill Pine Island. He doesn't have the white shoulders, he doesn't have any of the high contrast that a lot of the more expensive specimens will have, but he is a Chewie like any other, and so he's got the same general care needs that any other one would have, and so he is kind of my first attempt at just getting used to the care of these guys. Now, they're really neat. He does have some kind of cool mossy green colors that you can kind of see. And just like all the other racks, the color is highly variable from day to day, and depending on temperature and humidity, they can be lighter or darker. Now, one thing that's really awesome about these guys is they're, I believe, the only species in the group that have a true prehensile tail. And you can kind of see some size that he has while he's on my arm. They've got some good length to him. He's not very heavy, but definitely larger than most crested geckos, and not as heavy-bodied as a lot of the gargs that I've had, but certainly longer, and part of that length comes from that nice tail. But these guys are really cool. I know that they've undergone some taxonomic changes with the racks lately, and I've read the paper by Aaron Bauer with the renaming of the geckos in this group, but I always find it a little bit problematic when I'm reading about taxonomy, because the reality is, 20 years down the road it'll probably be something different, and as new technologies develop, particularly those involved in looking at the proteomes and the genomes of various organisms, there will be much more grouping and splitting and such, so don't let that deter you from studying these guys or being involved in the hobby. They do have some really cool eyes. I'm not sure how close I can actually focus with this camera. I'm actually using my iPad. I believe this is the iPad 3 that I'm used to video, and it has pretty good resolution. But again, this is a male Chewie, Pine Island, and I believe it's actually the Pine Island subtype that is larger than the Grand Terre, so that's the opposite of the Leachianus. And in terms of selection and the natural history of these organisms, that does tend to make a lot of sense. You've only got so much adaptive space for different species to kind of branch out into, and so due to competition between species, it would make sense that where you find the larger forms of one species type you'd find smaller of another. Island systems make fantastic models for studying natural selection and evolution, and this group of geckos is just one of many really cool groups of organisms to study along those lines. But anyways, this... oh, we're caught on my jacket there. That's another disadvantage of videoing with an iPad. It's very hard to control, and it's very hard to refocus. There we go. So, cool stuff.